Welcome everybody back to FOD Shorts. That's Freedom on Deck on WJJF in Long Island, Rhode Island, and Eastern Long Island. 94.9 News Now and stimulating talk on the FM dial. And this is our midweek podcast where me and CV Burton, how you doing, CV?
Doing good.
We get a little raw. My name's Mean Chet Martin. And this is the aspect of Freedom on Deck where we can actually, we are able to let loose a little bit. You know, before I get into these topics, CV, this week coming up on Sunday is when our show is heard on FM radio from 3 to 5 on Sundays. And I urge everybody to listen to that. Go to freedomondeck.com if you want all the information. And we're going to have Lee Elsey, who's our morning show guy. He's got a fantastic show. He's the one that basically said to the powers that be, put these guys on the FM dial. And that's how this was created 3 years ago. We started as a podcast. And without you, CV, you came over the last year and you've joined us, which we can't thank you enough for.
Well, I can't thank you enough for having me.
We love it. And you know what? We also have Brigitte Gabriel coming on. And if anybody doesn't know who Brigitte Gabriel is, she's from Act for America. She's got the new book, Rise, coming out. She's a New York Times bestseller. She's seen on Hannity. She's on Fox News all the time. If you don't know who Brigitte Gabriel is, keep listening to this show. We want you to listen.
Yeah, she doesn't mince words.
No, she doesn't.
She's like the Middle Eastern version of Pam Geller, if you know who she is.
She is, and she's a good Christian. And what we're going to be talking to her about is the destruction of Christianity in America. And she really has an insight into what's going on, who's creating this, that there are Sharia courts in America already, which a lot of people don't know about. So you're going to want to listen this Sunday on 949newsnow.com or on freedomondeck.com. You can catch that on Monday.
Yeah.
But listen, I want to get into Colin Kaepernick, of course, and that's the pet name that Michael Savage has for him. But Nike's new face of their advertising is Colin Kaepernick, whom is the anti-American former quarterback that first sat and later kneeled because it was a former football player that was also a veteran that told him you should kneel. Let's keep in mind that Colin Kaepernick first sat on his fanny for the anthem before he kneeled. And he kneeled during the national anthem at 49ers football games. He also once wore socks depicting police as pigs. He also pals around with Linda Sauer of CARE. The ad says, CV, believe in something even if it means sacrificing everything. Now, CV, here's a guy that's supposedly fighting for equal rights, but wears shoes made by slave laborers in Vietnam. How ironic is that, dude?
It's disgusting. And, you called him a new face, but he's eerily familiar looking, like an old face from the Yellow Submarine cartoon, if anybody remembers that, the Blue Meanies. If you look at Kaepernick's face and compare him to the Blue Meanies from the Yellow Submarine movie, you'll see an eerie similarity there. And I think that's significant. I don't know why, but the guy looks like an imp. He looks like a little leprechaun with his freaking smirk. All right.
Well,
sorry, I'm getting upset.
No, it's okay. I think the Blue Meanies were supposed to agitate, right? That they were an agitating character.
Yeah.
So it kind of makes sense.
They were like the Antifa of the 60s.
Yeah. But, here's the thing. Nike goes out and they sign this guy to do these ads, right?
Yeah.
And Nike, they have slave labor camps in Vietnam. Even Bernie Sanders has talked about it, where they pay women and children 20 cents an hour to make these shoes. Now, why is this guy, when he proclaimed that he was kneeling for social injustice, for human rights violations perpetrated by the police in America, why would he say yes to an ad for a company like Nike.
I'll tell you why. Because A, he's sadly misinformed about just about everything. You know, if this guy believes in something, why can't he like articulate what he believes in? Why doesn't he discuss this with people who are unhappy with his show of disrespect to our great nation? Because he can't articulate it, he can't debate it, because he can't think, because he's a moron and he doesn't know anything about Nike's history.
Absolute moron. The guy wore socks with pigs dressed as police officers, and people take him seriously.
He probably wears socks in the bathtub. The guy is a jerk.
that was pretty good. But he and who he runs around with, Linda Sarsour, activist from CARE. I mean, this should tell you everything you need to know about this guy. This guy clearly hates America if he's running around with CARE, right?
I don't know. Yeah, absolutely.
It's the only guess I can get. And for someone like Kaepernick is the one that started this whole kneeling process in football. It didn't happen before him. It happened after him. And one of the most shocking things that I saw last night, CB, on Twitter, was that Ahmadinejad, the former president of Iran, threw his support behind Kaepernick and said, I can't read what he said right now. I don't have it in front of me. But what he said basically was, how can football, American football, keep this guy out of the game when he's one of the greatest quarterbacks that's ever played, which is totally misleading. The guy was never a great quarterback to begin with.
Yeah.
He's terrible. I know football. The guy sucked.
Yeah, if he was a great quarterback, he wouldn't need to be calling attention to himself. He would have plenty of attention already.
And second of all, you're right with what you said. Second of all, Ahmadinejad, he's one of the biggest human rights violators probably in the history of the world, maybe top 10.
Yeah. They're the ones in Iran who throw gay people off of buildings.
Right. So why is Colin Kaepernick the face of the left for human rights? Well, it just shows you that their message is blind and doesn't work.
Oh, it's totally blind. It's like a cult. Like those protesters in the Kavanaugh hearings the last couple of days, and these women that are screaming, they're like cult members. They're like Charles Manson cult members. Somebody said that on the Michael Savage show. I didn't write that myself, but somebody called in and said they remind me of Charles Manson cult followers. Those women who, just a little bit before your time, Chet.
No, I know all about Charles. I don't know if you saw that I actually made a meme with Charles Manson that had the Colin Kaepernick Nike ad, but instead of the swastika on it, did you see this that I
No.
made? Instead of the swastika on his forehead, I put the Nike symbol.
Yeah.
And then I put under Charles Manson, I put to believe in something means to sacrifice everything, just like the Nike ad. So yeah. I thought that was
just apropos. like Charles Manson sacrificed everything and spent the rest of his life in jail.
Right.
But that's such a coincidence that I said that in this topic.
Kind of
when you did that and I didn't even see it. We're gonna have to put that image in this video.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll send it to you before we send it out.
But they're like cult followers. They don't think. All they know is that they hate America, and because they're not beige colored Europeans that they're jealous of for whatever reason. They hate America. They hate what it stands for. They hate capitalism. That's all they know.
Absolutely, and the election of Trump really got everybody fired up. And maybe it's a good thing. But let's talk about Kavanaugh. Okay, let's transition into Kavanaugh. The hearings over the last 2 days, embarrassing.
Yeah.
Mob rule. I mean, it looks like communist third world crap. Where you ever see those videos, like you'll see Parliament over in Venezuela, where some of them are throwing shoes at each other. We're close to that here now. It's getting close to that here now.
Yeah.
And it frightens me. But, I will tell you this. There are some really scary characters questioning Mr. Kavanaugh, who, by the way, is not an extreme right-winger. Just so everybody out there understands, the guy is probably about as centrist a Republican as you can find.
Yeah.
I mean, he is. I even was concerned that he was too center for Donald Trump to pick. But you know what? I'm in full support of him now because the left is unhinged. I heard Dick Durbin, Mr. Turban Durbin, questioning him for advanced interrogation under George W. Bush. Now, let's keep in mind that Dick Durbin was the one that called out our military members, our servicemen and women, and he called them Nazis. And now we're supposed to take this guy seriously when he's questioning Brett Kavanaugh. And by the way, CV, Brett Kavanaugh's daughters attended the first day. They didn't attend the second day because they were frightened.
I know.
Think about that.
That's so sad.
It is.
None of the Republicans have any balls. They just let this fiasco go on and on and on, even though they knew the email leaked out that they were planning this, and they knew it was coming.
Chucky Boy Schumer, by the way, was involved with that.
They knew it was coming, yet they still let all the riffraff into the room, which kind of makes you suspect that they were in on it, like a lot of the Republicans. Because if they with one voice said no, it wouldn't have happened. But they weren't with one voice. Half of them hate Donald Trump too. This is all about Trump hating, all of this. Kaepernick, the Kavanaugh hearing protests, it's all the same.
And we're going to get into the Twitter protests, but you're right. And what do we think now when we see that they allowed Linda Sarsour into Brett Kavanaugh's hearing?
I don't know.
And did you hear her shrieking?
Yeah, I did.
Did you hear that?
That's what I'm saying. She sounded like one of the Charles Manson followers.
That was her. Yes, that was her. I forgot that you were talking about her. That was her.
I think there was there were a couple of them. There were a couple of women like that screaming like that yesterday and today.
From what I understand, through social media, the Democrat Party itself paid busloads of people to come in and put them in the front of the line, and actually went to people that were online, paying people, and said, we'll pay X amount for you to leave and put ours in. And that's how they got everybody into that to that hearing. That should not happen under any circumstances. Close it to the public. Why were these agitators allowed into that room is my question, CV.
Yeah. And then they say, oh, it's free speech. Meanwhile,
it's not.
There are laws that say you cannot disrupt a meeting held by somebody, a private meeting or even a public meeting that's organized in somebody else's building where there's an event going on. You cannot go in there and obstruct other people's rights to speak. And that's what they were doing. They were obstructing other people's rights to question and to answer in these hearings.
It's amazing to me. CV, it's amazing to me that the liberals will always say, well, it's free speech. You have to let them in. You have to let them say what they want, scream as loud as they want. But when they talk about the Second Amendment, they say, well, there's limits to the right?
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't work that way.
Yep.
That's not how the Constitution was erected.
No, you can't violate other people's rights with what you think are your rights.
No.
There are no rights upheld by the Constitution that allows you to disrupt somebody else's rights. It doesn't. That's where you got to stop. You have a right to build a house, but not on somebody else's property. You know what I mean?
I know it's frightening, but the whole thing is that when I watched these hearings, I couldn't even listen to them. I had to turn it.
No, I couldn't listen to them at all.
I heard Orrin Hatch, and he was talking to Gracely, and he was like, "Can you shut them up and get them out of this room, please?"
No, I was more interested in the other hearings, but
yeah,
I wasn't interested in that one because what's the point? He's going to be confirmed anyway.
I think the point is that it's you see how desperate they are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the point here, is that they're so desperate. And when's it going to get to the point where they walk into one of these hearings with a bomb?
I don't know, but don't give them any ideas. But
well,
you know,
I mean, they let Linda Sarsour in. You don't think that's possible?
Oh wait, here's something else that I have to call attention to. They kept saying, "Will you uphold the Constitution, or will you be more loyal to Donald Trump?" As if those two things are mutually exclusive. As if
right.
in other words, they're insinuating that Donald Trump is unconstitutional, and so you have to choose between being loyal to him and loyal to the Constitution. There is no such choice. Trump is all about the Constitution. That's why he picked Kavanaugh in the first place.
That's why we picked Donald Trump, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
The person that was unconstitutional was Barack Hussein. Oh, fucking Obama. Get the fuck out of here, you Muslim fuck. That is the truth.
Yeah. And I was disappointed in Kavanaugh for going along with the false premise of the question. He should have said, well, that's a false premise. Donald Trump is not against the Constitution. That's why he picked me, you jackass. I don't know why people don't have any balls whatsoever, even Kavanaugh.
Yeah, that's what's good. Well, that's another. I told you I didn't like him. See, I had to get that in there. So let's switch gears today. Jack Dorsey, who is the what do you want to call him, the CEO of Twitter?
CEO of
and
Twitter.
then Sheryl Sandberg came to represent Facebook, and she's the CEO under Mark Zuckerberg for Facebook. Now, the big story is that they were getting a bunch of softball questions, and Alex Jones and Laura Loomer.
I missed Laura Loomer, but I saw the Alex Jones part.
Oh, Laura Loomer is great because they wrecked the party, and Laura Loomer was just as obnoxious as Linda Sarsour was during the Brett Kavanaugh hearings. I just listened to it. What had happened was she chimed in, and this schmuck, I can't think of his name. Oh my God!
Just call him Schmuck.
This schmuck that that was there, he's a senator, and he started to talk over her, and he actually did, what do you call it, when you start, somebody that's an auctioneer. He started doing that,
really?
And it was really obnoxious, and it was terrible the way they treated her, and they grabbed her, and they escorted her out.
President Donald Trump, help us. Please help us, Mr. President, before it is too late, because Jack Dorsey is trying to influence the election, to sway the election.
What's she saying? I can't understand her. What?
Steal the election. That is why he is censoring and shadow banning.
How about it in? 12 and a half, 15, 7 and a half, $20, 2 and a half, 5, 7 and a half, 30. Hit $30 down here, 2 and a half, 5, 35, 7 and a half, 40. Hit $40, 2 and a half, 5, 45, 7 and a half, 50. Hit $50 down here, 2 and a half.
Officer, will you escort this young lady out, please?
Hit 2 and a half now, 5, 65, 7 and a half, 70. Up 2 and a half now, 5, 75, 7 and a half, $80 to 5, 85, 90. Hit $100 and 10, 10 and a quarter, 1 and a quarter, 1 and a half, 2, 2 and a quarter. Hit 2 and a half, 3, able to bomb 300. Hit 3 and a quarter. Hit 3 and a quarter now, half, 3 and a half, 400. Hit but a 4, 4 and a quarter, 4 and a half. We're selling the cell phone there, 4 and a quarter, 4 and a half. Hit 4 and a half, 475, 505, 5 and a quarter, 5 and a half. I yield back.
And then afterwards, Marco Rubio, the spineless wonder, the chinless wonder, that came out of the hearing was accosted, and I will say accosted because Alex Jones did.
Yeah.
He got in his face. And he got in that little punk's face, and it was amazing for me to watch that, CV, and to see this little schmucky, act like he didn't know who Alex Jones was and play it off and continue to talking to CBS, NBC, where Alex Jones is saying, we're being shadow banned. We're being, you're supposed to be a representative of ours. And that's what he was saying.
Mm-hmm.
And, for this Marco Rubio to sit there and say, well, I don't think that's true. I don't know who you are. He was basically saying that to us.
All right.
Right?
Yeah, because you know what? If anybody had any doubts as to why they didn't vote for Marco Rubio, this removes all doubt just watching this video, because he's a you can see how duplicitous he is, pretending he doesn't even know him. When the first couple of seconds of the confrontation, you could tell he knew exactly what he was talking about, because he was talking right in context with the topic of the conversation. And then a few seconds into it, he starts pretending like he doesn't know who he is.
In the platform, 26 companies working in concert, violating the Sherman Antitrust Act, and now Senator Warner and Senator Wyden have said, quote, there's thousands of sites worse than Alex Jones. So we're becoming like Cuba, we're becoming like Vietnam, we're becoming like China. So regardless of what people think about me or the straw man, should I have a First Amendment, or should these companies be able to violate the whole Safe Harbor Act and all that, and then ban conservatives en masse?
Yeah, I don't know anything about your site.
No, but about the First Amendment.
Yeah, I support the First Amendment. I just ask questions.
I know, you were the only one that brought up China. Are you aware of the deplatforming going on?
In China?
No, here. Big tech companies are purging conservatives. They're shadow banning people en masse.
Yeah, well, my broader concern is that what we are trying to do in terms of preventing foreign interference in our elections, that technology could be used by authoritarian governments to argue, we want you to do the same thing against people that are in our country operating. For example, for them, misinformation would be something like the truth. For them, sowing instability would be supporting democracy and free
But the
speech.
Democrats are doing what you said China does.
That you got from Sheryl Sandberg and Jack Dorsey on that question.
I think Facebook now I think it's important for them not to comply with any efforts to sort of go after freedom of
What about the
expression.
Democrats purging conservatives?
She's
not answering it. Just the Republicans are acting like it isn't happening. Thank God Trump is.
Well, but
It's weird, man.
Oh yeah, it's really weird. There's no purge of conservatives. There's no shadow banning of members of Congress.
bias in social media?
Yeah, who's this guy? We
Are you
deplatformed him.
concerned about bias in social media?
Well, I think the bigger bias is against freedom of expression. Everybody should be. There's a look. I
happening here.
support going
It's
after.
happening here, but you say I don't exist.
Is that a heckler or a press gaggle?
Look at this guy. He's saying that I don't exist, and they're deplatforming me.
I just don't know who you are, man.
And they,
I don't read
sure,
your website.
Sure, and they demonize me in these very hearings, and then he plays dumb. Infowars.com, you know what it is. Oh well.
Does Google, does Facebook, does
That's why you didn't get elected.
do they need to be regulated like, do they need to be regulated?
Marco Rubio the snake. Little frat boy here.
All right, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Who are you, man?
Yeah,
Who's
sure.
This guy? I swear to God, I
Yeah,
don't
you
know
better
who
hope
you
you
are,
can
man.
deplatform me. Tens of billions of views.
Infowars.
Bigger than Rush Limbaugh. He knows who Infowars is. Playing this joke over here. That's why the deplatforming didn't work.
But here's the question. Here's a question.
Don't touch me again, man. I'm asking you not to touch me.
It's
Support going
It's
after.
happening here, but you say I don't exist.
Is that a heckler or a press gaggle?
Look at this guy. He's saying that I don't exist, and they're deplatforming me.
I just don't know who you are, man.
And they,
I don't read your
sure,
website.
sure, and they demonize me in these very hearings, and then he plays dumb. Infowars.com, you know what it is. Oh well.
Does Google, does Facebook, does
That's why you didn't get elected.
do they need to be regulated like, do they need to be regulated?
Marco Rubio the snake. Little frat boy here.
All right, man.
Yeah, yeah.
Who are you, man?
Yeah,
Who's
sure.
This guy? I swear to God, I
Yeah,
don't
you
know
better
who you
hope
are,
you can
man.
deplatform me. Tens of billions of views.
Infowars.
Bigger than Rush Limbaugh. He knows who Infowars is. Playing this joke over here. That's why the deplatforming didn't work.
But here's the question. Here's a question.
Don't touch me again, man. I'm asking you not to touch me.
Well, sure, I just patted you nicely.
I know, but I don't want to be. I don't know.
Oh, you want me to get
man.
arrested?
I don't know who you are.
It's not just going to
You're
take
not
my
gonna
First
get arrested,
Amendment.
man. You're
It's
not
not
gonna
just
get
enough to
arrested.
take my
I'll
First
take care of
Amendment.
myself.
Oh, he'll beat me up.
I didn't say
You
that.
didn't know I am, but he's so mad. You're not going to silence me. You're not going to silence America.
But there are people.
You are literally like a little gangster thug.
There are people in this country.
Rubio just threatened to physically take care of me.
There are people who
Look at
feel
that.
that they're being.
We already got rid of our First Amendment.
They feel like
He tells you China's the problem, which it is, but they're taking our free speech right now.
Social media platforms, Facebook.
There goes Rubio.
Twitter. Do you believe that these platforms need to be regulated like a public utility, and how do you go about doing that?
Well, I prefer not to. I prefer competition to take care of that. But obviously, we're going to watch closely to make sure that these tools that are being used. I mean, one thing is to say we're going to go after foreign interference designed to sow instability.
But it's already going on here.
Another thing is to
The
say
Democrats
we're
are
going to go after
raping the
free
Republicans.
speech. Because at some point, someone
The
has to make a
Democrats are raping
determination. What's the
Infowars.
difference between, misinformation from abroad and differences of opinion within the United
Yeah,
States?
and that's happening
It's a very
here.
fine line, and that's something we need to be careful about. We don't overreach in that direction.
But then he doesn't know about
So these
Infowars being
companies
banned. He doesn't know about the
have
top
to be
news
very
story in the
careful
country.
about how they, not just how they apply that within the United States,
Infowars.com
but they don't become
is better than
agents
ever.
of authoritarian regimes abroad to crack down on free speech.
I
Because
wonder why Rubio got so mad at me and
there's
threatened me
a
physically.
balance between what is free speech and what people disagree on.
Poor Rubio.
I'm sorry, we gotta go.
Yeah, man, I gotta go to the committee. You guys can talk to this clown.
Oh, yeah. Look, he's a little frat boy. So cool. Go back to your bathhouse. Compromise at the bathhouses. There goes Rubio, a little punk. Anyways, you gotta love people that come from authoritarian regimes.
Yeah, it was total duplicity.
Yeah.
I agree. And the thing that worries me is, Republicans like this, you would think eventually, over the course of time, they would say, you know what, they're going after them now, but they're going to come after me next.
Yeah.
But Marco Rubio seems to have, a gold plate protection around him.
Oh yeah, I saw these little guys, these little security detail that were
little guys.
Because Marco himself is little Marco, so he has to surround himself by people that don't look too tall around him. It's like, look, I need security guards, but they have to be about my height, so people don't see in the picture that I'm standing around a bunch of tall guys and I look short. So I need security detail that's about like 5'2", no more than that.
And they have to have an 18-ounce Poland Spring with them so they can constantly sip out of it.
Yeah,
just like Marco does. I heard about, I know about that. And Alex Jones said, what did he say at the end?
He said, go back to your bathhouses.
Bathhouse.
Yeah, go back to your bathhouse.
That's kind of rough.
I don't care. You know what? I don't care, because you know what? When they go low, what does Freedom on Deck do?
We go lower.
We go lower.
I've seen images of Marco Rubio from the past. I guess in his college days, dressed as a pony. And
a purple pony?
No, he was dressed like a My Little Pony.
My Little Pony? Aren't they scented? Aren't My Little Ponies have like a nice little scent when you take them out of the package? It's kind of smell like blueberries.
I mean, does he smell like covfefe?
I don't know, but you can comb the tail. It comes with like a little plastic comb, and you can comb the tail, and you can comb the mane.
You know the whole thing.
Yeah, I have nieces.
Well, I'm an '80s kid. I remember my cousins, my girl. Not that I ever had one. Yeah, and you could smell them. They smelled like strawberries and lemon. If you could guess what Marco Rubio smelled like, I would think more like sulfur.
All right, and then the following Halloween, he dressed up as a Cabbage Patch doll.
With these hearings, though, CV, the most disturbing thing for me is that they seem like they were mob rule. As far as Kavanaugh goes, I mean, how did they... I was listening to it, and I'm like, this is 2 hours later, and they're still screaming.
Yeah, I know.
What the hell is going on in this country?
I don't know, man.
It's ridiculous. You got a centrist Republican, and the left is throwing all sorts of crap at him. Ridiculous.
All I can say is bring on the elections, baby. Bring on the elections, because if you think this is helping you, you're wrong. This is actually helping us.
I agree.
So keep it up, you little 4-year-old brats.
I hope so. I do hope so. You want to talk about Jack Dorsey?
They were so duplicitous on they weren't on trial, but on the stand, so to speak. They were talking out of one side of their mouth and the other. First they were saying, our policies don't censor political beliefs. And then they were questioned about, well, what do you do about propaganda in the context of our coming elections?
Meaning us.
Yeah, they're saying they call it propaganda.
Right. Yeah,
and they're like, well, we're working on that. And Jack Dorsey said, we're working with government agencies. And he wouldn't say
like the DOJ,
like the deep state.
Yeah.
And he's working with them, and it's crazy what they're trying to make everything sound like the reason they have to censor patriots is because 13 Russians may have commented on Twitter and Facebook about our elections in 2016. Are you kidding me? Do you know how many Russians commented on Facebook and Twitter about our elections during 2016? And that's not hacking, first of all, and it's not a crime, second of all. But then they use that as justification for tamping down on anybody who has any kind of political beliefs that they don't agree with.
Oh, I'm sick of hearing about Russia.
It just came out. It just fucking came out on Fox News and on The Blaze and on reputable conservative sites that Hillary Clinton's campaign was hacked by the Chinese, and they saw everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yep.
Everything.
And Feinstein's
able to come up with anything.
And Feinstein had
into.
Right, and Feinstein had a Chinese spy.
Thank you.
A spy from China working for her, driving her, and working in her office for years and years and years. No questions, no special counsel there.
Nothing. and you're telling me that we're more worried about some stupid Russian Facebook ads that I don't even think really exist more than China hacking in to top secret information that Hillary Clinton left open. We haven't even been able to see these sealed documents that come from her server. And by the way, 43,000 sealed documents according to QAnon that have been locked away. And I guarantee you it all has to do with child sex rings and all sorts of stuff that people don't want to get into. But it's going to come crashing down. I'm telling you one thing. Donald Trump is going to be the vehicle that does it.
And China is so much more our enemy than Russia ever was.
That's what I'm saying.
They're the ones who are propping up North Korea so that they could build a nuclear bomb so that they can kill us.
And why do you think it is that Trump has taken such a hard-line stance against China?
And they're stealing our intellectual property.
And interesting to me, CV, Donald Trump just put the strictest regulations against Russia that they've ever had.
Yeah.
And the media doesn't say shit about it.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Because it's all an orchestrated attack on our president and us, because Donald Trump represents us, and he's fighting for us. He took a step down to take this job to help our country. He didn't have to do this.
Yeah, he didn't have to do it. You know what? When Donald Trump walked into President Reagan's inauguration in 1984, second time around for President Reagan, and he sat there and he shook the hand of President Reagan, he knew then that one day he would have to run for the presidency. I know it because I've watched interviews where he was greatly influenced by Ronald Reagan. That's a fact.
Yeah.
And I think, for me, I always in my life, I've always said the greatest president in my life is Ronald Reagan.
Right.
But when I see Donald Trump, I say to myself, man, he's different than President Reagan. Mm-hmm. He is more. He's got, of course, more brioche. He's a loud guy. He's very different. But at the same time, he's the same in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah.
And
same
I
spirit.
think, it's the same spirit, and I think that's what we're dealing with here. And I think that the left is going to be in for a big shock. Mm-hmm. I don't think that things are going to go the way that they think they're going to go, or maybe they are, because why would they do this at Kavanaugh's hearing? I think it's because they're running scared.
They have no place to go. They can't debate the topics at all. So it's all got to be smoke and mirrors. It's all got to be about social justice warrior issues, and all of that. I always said is phony. It's all about dividing and conquer these social warrior issues, and to prop up certain demographics to vote for them, when really all they really want to do is enact communism. Incrementally. They'll never admit it. They say they're for socialism maybe, but not communism. But then they call themselves progressive. But what do you think progressive means? It means incremental. It means incrementally enforcing, bringing about socialism until it looks exactly like communism.
I don't think any of our listeners are dumb enough for us to have to explain the relationship between communism and socialism and, Marxism. I don't think we have to do that.
Okay.
So I think we're going to end it here.
All right.
Listen, this Sunday, you have to tune in 3 to 5. If you can listen on 94.9newsnow.com, we're going to have our morning show guy, Lee Elsey, and he's been filling in for national host Wayne Allen Root. So he's eventually going to get his own big national show. I know that's coming. And then we also have the wonderful Brigitte Gabriel. And, she's from Act for America. It's got this awesome book coming out, Rise. And we're going to talk to her about that. And we're also going to be remembering 9/11 because that's when our show started. So everybody come and listen to us on Sunday, please.
Never a dull moment.
All right, CV. I'll talk to you later, buddy.
All right.